If you've watched our series on the history of the Galactic Republic, you know that the Republic went through a great many rough patches. It spent 1,000 years under the rule of a genocidal cult, fought many calamitous wars against the Sith and Mandalorians, and came close to collapsing several times. But of all the chapters in Republic history, 1 century takes the cake as the darkest the Republic ever endured. It was a time of chaos, a time of collapse, a time when the Sith triumphed and civilization itself all but ceased to exist. This is the story of the Dark Age of the Republic.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Even without the threat of the Sith, the Republic always had its fair share of problems. Around 2,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, it was practically paralyzed due to how bloated it had become. It had explored most of the galaxy and organized much of the Outer Rim into sectors, each of which were entitled to their own representatives. The number of senators rose into the tens of thousands, larger than the populations of many Republic worlds, swelling to the point where the Senate was quite literally too big to get anything done. The 24,000-year-old government was crippled with countless inefficiencies and miles of bureaucracy. Systems were so old, so convoluted, and so entrenched that there was no making sense of them. The Republic was like a house of cards, waiting for a light breeze to send it all crashing down. The Sith weren't a light breeze, of course. They were more like a hurricane. 2,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, they rose to power under Darth Ruin and quickly spread across the galaxy thanks to a schism in the Jedi Order. These new Sith were very different from the Sith empires the Republic had fought in the past. They were highly disorganized and fought each other nearly as much as the Jedi, allowing the Republic to keep up the fight against them for longer than it otherwise might have. But the fluidity of the new Sith also meant that they were virtually impossible to stamp out. Dozens of small Sith orders kept springing up, and for each one the Jedi destroyed, more rose up to take their place. With the help of the Jedi, the Republic battled these Sith in the new Sith Wars, but as the centuries wore on, they began to lose ground. Following the catastrophic Battle of Mizra in 1466 BBY, the Republic started to hemorrhage territory, losing access to most of the Rim. The paralyzed Senate yielded virtually all of its power to the Supreme Chancellor. Increasingly, the role of Supreme Chancellor was filled by Jedi who were quickly becoming civilization's last hope. By 1100 BBY, the Republic was on its last leg. The Sith were on the verge of conquering Coruscant, but at the last minute, Sith infighting saved the Republic. The allied Sith Lords slaughtered each other over the title of Dark Lord, even as Coruscant itself was at their mercy. Because of this, the Jedi were able to push them back into the Outer Rim, but the Republic had already sustained serious damage. For the next century, it would all but cease to exist. The period from 1100 to 1000 BBY is called the Republic Dark Age, and it was a frightening time to live in the Star Wars galaxy. Just looking at this map should tell you just how capital F fracked the galaxy was. For 100 years, the Republic existed only in the core worlds and in narrow strips along major hyperspace routes, and even there, its rule was tenuous at best. Wide swaths of the Rim came under the rule of the Sith or the Hutts, who were Sith allied. But most of the galaxy was instead completely abandoned, left to the mercy of the marauding Sith, pirates, and warlords. During the Dark Age, the galactic economy imploded, which not only bankrupted important industries, but more importantly, impoverished trillions of people. The Kandorian Plague ravaged the galaxy, killing as much as 2/3 of the populations of some worlds. As it entered a state of freefall, the Republic was no longer able to maintain the HoloNet, which was shut down outside of the core worlds, who were still wealthy enough to keep local branches of it running. For everyone else, interstellar communication fell apart. Some systems resorted to using couriers to carry messages to other worlds, others were left completely isolated. For those living on the many distant Outer Rim colonies the Republic had sponsored before the war, it was as if the universe itself was coming to an end. Local populations of just a few hundred found themselves alone in a terribly violent galaxy, left to fend for themselves. Many were forgotten entirely. Others were met with even worse fates: conquest by roving bands of Sith, or devastating pirate and slaver raids. It was a nightmare from which there was no waking up, and it lasted for 100 years. The flag of the Republic still flew over the core worlds, the Republic Navy still maintained control along a handful of major hyperspace routes, and the Senate still met on Coruscant, but there was no Galactic Republic left. Virtually the entire government had crumbled to dust, leaving only the tattered remnants of the military, a powerless, gridlocked Senate, and a Supreme Chancellor that, by that point, could do absolutely nothing about the situation, even with all the power the Senate had given him. The galaxy was ruled by law of the blaster, whether that blaster belonged to what was left of the Republic military, the militias fighting with the Sith, or one of the many pirate gangs and slaver empires. In this dark age, there was only one thing left to stand between the galaxy and utter ruination: the Jedi Order. As the Republic started to abandon territory, it gave a number of prominent Jedi Knights commissions to watch over the worlds it left behind. These Jedi became permanent guardians, and over time, they became legitimate rulers too. These Jedi Lords took command of systems the Republic could no longer defend, raising armies to stave off the Sith and doing their very best to improve the lives of their people. In some systems, the title of Jedi Lord became inherited, with Force-sensitive bloodlines becoming dynastic. A select few Jedi Lords even adopted feudal aesthetics, though they maintained democratic societies in most cases. During the Dark Age, these Jedi Lords were a bulwark against the marauding Sith Lords that ran roughshod over the former Republic. Like primitive medieval kingdoms, Jedi Lords and their armies did battle with kingdoms ruled by vicious Sith, keeping up the new Sith Wars. They provided reinforcements and logistical aid to the tattered Republic military, which, incidentally, was also under the command of Jedi generals by that point. Though it was a dark age for everyone else, this era was honestly the finest hour for the Jedi, a time when their order carried the entire galaxy. But there weren't all that many Jedi, so most of the galaxy remained on the brink of collapse, hoping that one of the many roving Jedi Knights would stop by and lend a hand. The only reason the Republic survived this era was because the new Sith had a really hard time not killing each other. For most of the Dark Age, they did the Jedi's work for them, wasting their strength in civil war. But that stopped in 1010 BBY, when fallen Jedi Skara Khan reformed the Sith as an order. He gathered the warring Sith Lords together and proclaimed them equals, convincing them to unite as one against the Jedi and the Republic. Khan's new Sith Order was called the Brotherhood of Darkness. The beaten Republic military crumpled before the Brotherhood of Darkness, which began to organize Sith territory into a new empire, beginning offensives against the last pockets of Republic space. But around the same time, a coherent opposition of the Sith arose as well. The Jedi Lord Hoth declared the formation of an army of light to combat the threat of the Brotherhood of Darkness, and all of the galaxy's Jedi Lords, without exception, rallied to his banner. Most of the Jedi Order joined Hoth, as did the Jedi Lord's loyal followers. Many soldiers in the Republic military jumped ship to the Army of the Light as well, seeing in Lord Hoth a hope to the end of the Dark Age. The Army of Light repulsed the Sith's early offensives and then attempted to kick the Brotherhood's teeth in, sweeping through the cloak of the Sith and capturing Khan's greatest strongholds. This was the start of the War of Light and Darkness, the last of the new Sith Wars. The Army of Light and Brotherhood of Darkness battled on fronts across the galaxy, slaughtering each other amidst the ruins of the Old Republic. In 1000 BBY, what was left of both armies was entrenched on the remote planet of Ruusan, where they fought an all-or-nothing battle for galactic supremacy. 7 battles were fought by Ruusan, some won by the Jedi and some by the Sith. By the time the last one began, Jedi and Sith forces were so utterly atrophied that they had completely exhausted their blaster ammunition, and any reserve supplies within a convenient distance of Ruusan. Those unable to wield a lightsaber in the 7th Battle of Ruusan fought with spears, pikes, and even bows and arrows, truly looking like medieval armies by the end. The Jedi emerged victorious from the Crucible of Ruusan, albeit at a high cost. After their defeat in the 7th battle, Lord Khan and the remnants of the Brotherhood of Darkness hid out in a deep cave, a last refuge from the Jedi. There, under the guidance of one Darth Bane, they created a thought bomb, a suicidal dark side weapon that consumed their souls and those of 100 other Jedi that went to confront them, including Lord Hoth. In a last act of bitterness, the Sith wiped themselves out, or they almost did, rather. Darth Bane, unbeknownst to the Jedi, survived and founded a new Sith Order. After the detonation of the Thought Bomb, command of the Army of Light fell to Valentine Farfalla, who declared victory, albeit a tainted one. With the defeat of the Sith at Ruusan, the Republic Dark Age came to a sudden end. In the years that followed, the Republic, against all hope, rebuilt. Under the leadership of Supreme Chancellor Tarsus Valorum, it rose from the ashes, reorganized, and began putting the galaxy back together, vowing to never again fall as far as it had during the Dark Age. So that's the story of the darkest chapter in Republic history. But what do you think? Would you like to hear more stories from the new Sith Wars in the future? Let us know all that and more in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.